Welcome to the Investing Podcast, presented by Tusk Media. Now, for your early morning look at financial news and activity in audio and video form, here's the Morning Market Mimosa.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Investing Podcast Marathon Edition, back coming hard with Season 3. I'm Andrew Hall, this is Ben Nye. We're going to do a market overview. Got a lot coming your way today. In a little bit, Matt Krozbach's going to come up. We're going to do a political party a little bit later. You're going to be up here and you're going to do Nike.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Going in hard on Nike, and then we've got some internment. The two interns will be up. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Futures, Dow futures basically flat, down about 4 basis points. S&P futures down 1 basis point. NASDAQ futures up a little bit, up 7. Gold down just a little bit. Oil up about 1.5%. to 45.32, so not a whole lot going on in terms of future activities, but we do have a number of stories that we want to touch on. Leading off with a story that's been, I guess, in the headlines the last couple of weeks, Wells Fargo, the fake accounts. Talk about the clawbacks, the penalties that are now starting to kind of reveal themselves and the consequences.
Yeah, so CEO John Stump is his name. $41 million in unvested equity clawbacks that they're coming after him with. So not a good day for him. You know,
Good day.
It's not a good day to make money, but to lose money and to lose $41 million is a bit of a rough one. But given the fact that he presided over a company that was creating fake accounts, you know, maybe it's a little bit of karma.
Yeah.
Come back to
yeah, and it's one of those things. It's easy to say, oh well, how is he supposed to control these things down at that level? But so much of it's almost cultural.
Yeah.
As the figurehead of a major corporation, you set the tone from the top down. And I mean, the last time I lost $41 million in a day, it was a rough day, but it was probably deserved. You know?
Yeah.
So that's going on with Wells Fargo. Interesting story to kind of keep an eye on.
It's really interesting also how they're all of a sudden these corporations are really getting under the microscope of Congress.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo, Mylan, we also saw.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if she pays a penalty as well, the CEO of Mylan.
Yeah, and it's especially, again, we'll maybe touch on this a little bit when we do the political party, but it seems like all that's just heightened during an election year, and everything can be politicized so much more so, whether it's an activist group or a corporation or whatever it may be. It's so easy to kind of get under the skin of voters, which is, I guess, not a good thing, but I guess a good way to raise awareness for stuff. Elon Musk, the master plan, it is really taken off.
Yeah.
Let's start here. What are the odds of Musk fulfilling his full master plan?
So I think this is his dream. So he's going to set up solar panels by Solar City on Mars. There's going to be Tesla vehicles driving around. On a highway of solar panels, and people are going to get there just through renewable energy, like compost or something. Like they're going to
climb a compost ladder.
Yeah, all the way to Mars, and it's going to be in a hyperloop, so it's going to happen at light speed.
Do you think that there is any self-awareness to this? Because from our perspective, and I think from the general population's perspective, now Elon Musk, regardless of what good things he has done, is doing, continues to do, he's almost a parody of himself at this point. You know, at what point, like, is there any self-awareness there? Do you think that he's every once in a while actually, like, including something half-heartedly just to get a laugh? I
think this is genuine.
We're laughing at him, not with him.
Yeah, I think he really views himself as one of the only people in the world who can advance science and really think big. And I think if he's talking candidly, he'd probably admit that these are very, very difficult proposals.
Right.
But I think he'd also say, you know, if we don't actually dream about these proposals, we'll never even get close to them. So I'm giving it a shot. I think he has a very high opinion of what he's able to do. So it'll be interesting to see if he can actually, if it's just kind of a P.T. Barnum deal, or if he's able to actually come through with a lot of his promises.
I mean, you've got to put him now on the list of all-time creators.
Yeah.
right there with Kanye West.
Yeah.
In terms of people who can just disrupt the entire universe.
Right.
Elon Musk, universal disruptor. SAB Miller, talk to us a little bit about what's going on with that deal.
Yeah, so this was a big deal. SAB Miller and AB InBev merging. It's really important for the space because we've seen a lot of industries how much consolidation plays a role. So when you consolidate an industry, you just inherently have more pricing power. You have better also control over your suppliers. So that should really help your margins over time. So everyone views this deal as something that's good for the industry. On an individualized basis, it's a little more difficult because SAB Miller is having to fork out money. So the key was, are the SAB Miller shareholders going to say, yes, we approve this deal? And they did 95%. All they needed was 75% in. So it passed really easily. So we saw yesterday, like Molson Coors was up, 3% or so, and the whole beer space rose in unison.
It is also, intern Scotty told me it's National Drink Beer Day.
Is it?
Today. So I don't know if that's a real holiday. Certainly not observed by the street. Markets are open today, so just keep that in mind as you're drinking your beers.
Well, maybe that explains the lack of movement in futures. Maybe
Exactly.
no one's showing up to work.
Everybody's starting early here. They're getting some beer mimosas going on this morning. Speaking of alcohol, Jose Cuervo planning to IPO, $1 billion valuation on IPO, would be the largest Mexican IPO since 2014. Are you a tequila guy?
Not huge, but it's a solid brand.
Yeah, that's what was surprising to me. Was I honestly didn't realize that it was like so independent.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that private equity. Because I mean, when you're talking about doing an IPO, surely there's got to be private equity people looking to get in early, lever it up, and then IPO it. So it's interesting to me that they went straight to the IPO rather than selling to a bigger guy or doing a private equity deal.
So Jose Cuervo, $1 billion IPO. Want to ask you a question. Totally switching gears here. Online shopping. When you start online shopping, you got the entire internet. Where do you start?
If I know what I'm looking for, I mean, if it's a niche product, I go to the website. But if it's just kind of general and I'm looking for the best price, I go to Amazon.
You and I both, and we are in the majority. 55% of online shoppers now start their online shopping search at Amazon. It's interesting the way you phrase your response, kind of if it's a niche product or a specific thing, you'll go to the specific site. I've even gotten away from that a lot.
Really?
Just because it's so rare that I can find something that isn't at least as cheap and as readily available on Amazon. And I'm trying to think of the last time I had to actually go directly to, kind of a specialty site or something like that, and I really can't think of anything. But I mean, that's just crazy dominance. We've talked a lot about Amazon on the podcast. We've talked a lot about how hard it is to value, the online shopping component and just what they're doing and how profitable that site actually is. But to think that there's something as huge and wide-spanning as online shopping, and that there's one domain that basically owns 55% of the space, it's staggering.
It is, yeah. It is indeed.
So pretty crazy stuff there. Last thing we've got, I think, on the market overview is the Wall Street Journal came out, first time, ranked colleges and universities. What was surprising? Run through the rankings and talk to me about what surprised you, and we'll kind of make fun of these schools.
Yeah, so for, number one, you have Stanford, MIT, Columbia, Penn, Yale. Harvard doesn't even crack the top five. They're number 6. Duke, Princeton, Cornell, and Caltech. So the Harvard and Princeton rankings were somewhat surprising to me because U.S. News and World Report, and they're always kind of 1 and 2.
Consistently.
Right. Yeah. So also no Dartmouth on there, and some of the other Ivy Leagues didn't get a
pretty. Spot. And Stanford, I don't know. I certainly think of it as an elite school, and certainly, an Ivy League school, but I don't know that I would have guessed it'd be number 1.
Yeah.
That's lofty.
Yeah, and
That's the top. It's literally the top, Ben.
Right.
I don't know if you realize that.
They're not going to be topping football this weekend, though.
Ooh,
on Friday night,
he's
so.
talking trash, big time.
Yeah,
Do you
I
think
wanted to
Wall
get
Street
that.
Journal may revise their rankings after the Washington
Yeah,
game?
yeah. UW's going to go from second in the Pac-12 in both football and academics to number one in both.
'Cause I have a feeling somewhere in the finer print on how those rankings were derived, it said something about Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
And that's why Stanford came number one. And, a huge factor was, best football player on the team, how many all-purpose yards. They skyrocketed to number one. That hurt Harvard, I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure that hurt Harvard.
They wanted some kudos for the basketball, apparently.
Yeah, Duke rose nicely after their win against Notre
Yeah.
Dame. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think that's about all we got. I will say one more note, and I need to revise this. I once went through and found, I made my own college rankings list, and it was the most American schools,
Oh,
and it was ranked by, I made like a hybrid poll. I'll have to find this because it would actually be pretty fun to revise. I made a hybrid poll featuring the top 25 football poll, because that's a distinctly American sport,
yeah.
basically just played here. And Playboy's party rankings, their party school rankings, because I feel like parties are pretty uniquely American, like nobody else parties.
Yeah.
And I combined them and made this tiered system to find like who the most American schools were. And it's pretty good because you got some sneaky like people on that party list, like
Yeah.
Ohio University, always real high. So you got to kind of keep an eye out on that stuff.
Always real high.
Yeah, real high over there in wherever that is. I think it's actually in Athens, Ohio. So there we go. So I'll leave you guys with all that knowledge, and we'll move on to the next segment. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to Political Party. Let's get rolling and get the unit here. The debate. We reacted in full with a long podcast for the listeners and viewers out there. Intern Scotty is literally taking his pants off right now.
I'm tucking in my shirt.
I don't know why this is going on, but we dove in full on the podcast. Check it out on iTunes, subscribe, all that good stuff. But you weren't there, so I want to get your thoughts on the debate in general, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't know what like your consensus was. Like I'll be honest, I didn't listen to you guys'.
Wow. Wow.
So I don't know like what all your stances were, but I think you were all leaning that Hillary one.
Definitely. I definitely was. Yeah.
I was under the impression, I watched the whole thing. Not to brag, but I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I did too.
And I thought Trump did like what he needed to do to like stay alive. And I know you disagree, but I was thinking he did enough to like maintain his base and potentially grow, just like seeming more confident than what he was like at the GOP debates, and also like elaborating on, like why he's gonna make so many jobs and all that.
I don't disagree with that. He did like what he had to do to stay alive. And I don't think he lost his base, because I think a huge chunk of his base like isn't going anywhere. I just don't. I have a hard time seeing how anyone could have watched that. And even if you were like, okay, this guy's a little bit more presidential than I thought, or a little bit more competent, or a little bit more chill, whatever. I don't know how you could still say that and be like, and he's more fit. That would be like,
I wouldn't go that far.
So I have a really hard time seeing how he would have won voters, just because it seems like if you were on the fence about Trump, I don't think he did enough. I mean, I think he could have done a lot more to discredit Hillary. I think he could have done a lot more to attack. And I think that's like, I mean, there's things like, and Scotty made a great point on the podcast, but you wouldn't know because you didn't listen. But he made the point that like the email scandal, I think a lot of people don't really understand like the tactical elements of that and why it is such a big deal to people. And I think he could have spent 2 minutes talking about that and actually just explaining the issue, not even necessarily attacking Hillary. And that could have been really effective rather than like talking in circles about, call Sean Hannity and ask him what I said before the war.
I think you said this too. Like, there's so many times where he could have had like an awesome 1 or 2 liner, and just like threw that in there, and just like discredited. Yeah. Just that simple, just discredited anything Hillary just said.
Yeah. So that was what's surprising. I think I do think, and I just touched on it, but call Sean Hannity is like going to be my big takeaway from this. Like, anytime anything happens that's negative for me, I'm just going to be like, no, call Sean Hannity. Check it out.
I will say, Hillary's just like so good at talking.
She's really good.
I think, you agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
She's been bred like for this.
Yeah.
And like, she maintained her composure. She Like she handled that really well, I thought. As
Yeah.
much as I don't like either of them.
Right.
I really don't like Hillary. But
Yeah, no, I
she's
agree. I
great
mean,
at that.
it's hard to argue, and that's what was, in some regards, I think, going to be a challenge for anybody up there, because I think even if you said, I'm trying to think who would be like Cruz, Rubio, Christie, any of them, like one-on-one, she's going to be really good. In some regards, I almost think like, and he was never going to be viable as a candidate, but Chris Christie might have had the best shot one-on-one because he can be combative and professional. And that's what it almost, to me, it almost seemed like we got professional Trump, we didn't get combative Trump. And that was what was missing. I think a little bit of, opportunistic.
I'm sure it wasn't easy for Hillary just to sit back when Trump's like, nope, you're wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
She had that smirk on her face, and everybody's calling it her between two ferns face from the video with Zach Galifianakis. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought, in some regards, like I kind of give her credit for like not losing her cool, but it's also like I think she
clearly knew that's what she had to do.
in my mind, when she did debate prep, they gave her earbuds, and they just had someone yelling no the whole time. That's not true, and that's how she trained. Kind of like,
wouldn't be bad practice.
yeah, like football teams when they have a big road game, they
Yeah.
practice with the other team's fight song real loud in the stadium. I think that's what was going on. Do you think we'll see any move? There's a huge undecided population. You mentioned you think maybe Trump did enough to gain some voters. Do you think we'll start to see that trickle down into polls sooner than later?
No, I don't think he did enough to do that, to like move the needle.
Yeah.
And I think like you said, or someone said this, but like after the first debate, that you're kind of stuck. Like you don't
Yeah.
really move after that first debate.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking before, like it's crazy that we vote on the president after 3 debates like that. Like we're a third of the way what we're gonna hear.
Yeah. And this was like
in
so
total
surface
from
level.
those guys.
And this was so surface level.
Yeah, it's
I felt
crazy.
We do have the VP debate next week, but the other thing I thought was a good takeaway from the presidential debate, the first one, 84 million or 83.7 watched. Huge number, but they were saying like 100 million
Yeah,
plus.
that's not even close to what they're projecting.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting, and I would think that probably benefits one of the candidates, because just logistically, it's unlikely that it was an even split in terms of who the 16 million that didn't watch. And I don't know who that would be. Part of me feels like, I don't know, this might just be biased, but I feel like the people I know that are gung-ho with her, pro-Hillary, a lot of those people watch just to watch Trump get schooled. I don't know as many people who are like way on the extreme of Trump that watch him like take Hillary to the woodshed. So I'm wondering if maybe there were fewer Trump people watching, which actually might be a good thing, because if you were a borderline Trump supporter, it's also possible like he died of losing that. That's probably me reading way too into it, but it seems like somebody would benefit from a smaller audience, and and maybe the storyline is, he talks about how huge his ratings are. Maybe the storyline is, hey, people are over it. Who knows?
What do you think, if you had to like break down like voting distributions right now, what would you say like it is right now? Like 55, 45, something like that?
I think it's closer than that. So we have like, some polls show like 17 or 18% undecided.
Well, do you agree with polls?
No,
At this point?
and I think a lot of that is, I think there's a lot of people that are, and I think I said this in the office the other day, I think there's a lot of people that are voting for Trump that don't want to say they're voting for Trump. Because unfortunately, I hate the political system, how we focus on issues that aren't necessarily that impactful to begin with. The birther issue, as an example, that has no bearing on who the next president of the United States is. That will not impact policy, that will not affect anything. You can go on a tangent and say this means Donald Trump is racist, but at the same time, he was also questioning Ted Cruz's legitimacy as a U.S. citizen. So I don't think it was a black versus white thing. I think Trump's crazy. But do I view that as like a window into how he would lead the country? Not at all. Because also a lot of that was happening when he was a private citizen. So I think we focus on things that aren't really that impactful, but unfortunately we've gotten the narrative now where if you support Trump, the only reason you could support him, a lot of people would say, is because you're a bigot or you're a racist or whatever it may be. And the reality is neither of these people are perfect. There are racists that support Trump, I think, but there's also, I think, people that support him purely for economic reasons that would actually have an impact on their day-to-day life. So I think there's a lot of people that are closet Trump voters that are probably in that pool of undecided. So my gut is that it's like a true toss-up. Like I don't want to say it's 50-50 because it's a cop-out. I think she's got a lead, but I don't think she's got more than like a 2-point lead. That's my gut.
What did you think about Trump taking shots at the Fed for that? Like he had a little bit there.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it was interesting because he talked about kind of the politicizing of the Fed, and he worded it really badly. I'll have to pull it up because I tweeted it from the Tusk account. But I thought it was interesting because we had just been talking about like which way the Fed would lean and how impacts might differ based on who was elected. It was one of those instances where, let's see. Sorry, this is me reading my phone on. Trump says poignantly, the Fed is doing political. He did say that the Fed is doing political.
But is that wrong?
Yeah, I don't disagree with it. They're doing political. I think it's pretty evident. But no, I thought that was interesting. But again, that's one of those things where, and this, I'm a big like proponent of like having the electorate be more educated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and same goes for Hillary. Like, if she had come out and just explained some things, even if it's something I knew, I would give her a ton of credit for actually explaining a complicated issue. Like, that's another area where it's like all this time we wasted going here and there. Like, explain what that means and what the impact is. And give us a 2-minute overview.
I feel like the general population probably has
There's
no idea
no
what he was
idea.
talking about. Like, I mean, he made good points.
I would assert
But, like,
that 50% of the voting population doesn't even know what the Fed does, like at a basic level.
I probably agree with that.
I would say 50% probably thinks, they're elected or they're on a ballot somewhere, that would be a great opportunity to say, hey, the Fed controls, interest rates. Here's what they're doing and here's why it's negative or why it's good or like whatever it stands, it's just educate. But I really wonder what his training regimen is like. Because I think he's a phenomenal off-the-cuff speaker, I really do. Like,
Well, he's kind of impressed for that too with all the reality shows and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I think
knows
he knows how to talk. But what's interesting is it almost does become an issue of stamina, which they address. It's like every time, like he's good, and then he just slowly like starts unwinding. The end of that thing just seemed like it got ugly.
One last thing. I got one last thing. What
Yeah.
what topics are you hoping to see in the next one that they didn't cover? I got healthcare.
I think healthcare would be good. I don't know. I don't know that.
I didn't even put you on the spot there.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. Healthcare, I definitely want to hear about healthcare because that's arguably not even arguably, that was definitively kind of the cornerstone of Obama's presidency.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they didn't talk about that one,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So I'd love to hear about healthcare. I'd love to hear about just like anything with detailed plans, like not just theoretical. And I'd love to hear about like what they're going to do to actually inspire confidence from Congress. I think that would be an interesting topic just to hear.
It's really important.
And that's an area where you could get two really, really different sides of the coin. Hillary, who has experience in this, Trump, who doesn't. Because that's a big thing to me is, part of why I'm so unenthused by these candidates is not just them, but it's also like I don't really feel like either of them is going to have that much say-so in the direction of the country because I feel like we're going to consistently have this squabbling in D.C., people just jostling to keep their jobs and nothing getting done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to hear just like some plans on stuff like that. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to think on that. VP debate coming up. You gonna watch that?
I will. I'm not too excited about it.
I'm gonna watch just because I feel like I don't know anything about either of
Yeah,
these guys. Like
that's
that's
why I'm
my
not too
thing. Is
excited,
like
'cause I don't know those guys.
I wouldn't say I'm an undecided voter. I lean towards like if I was polled, I would probably say I voted for Trump. But at the same time, like this is like a debate where if they actually get to substantive issues, it seems like a VP debate could really swing people because it's like, hey, this isn't two egos. It's two guys that people who like have to really think about to even remember their names. But you get Pence in there, you get Kane. They can kind of represent their camps in pretty effective ways. If you're an undecided voter, I think that would be a great thing to watch. Probably more valuable than the presidential election, just in terms of understanding the direction of the platform as well as just the parties as a whole and where they're headed. I think you'll actually have less noise.
That's why Joe Biden back in there.
And Biden was great up there.
Do you think like for the vice president debates, like they're gonna be this year specifically gonna be like more important than what they have in the past?
I think
like,
so.
People don't like Hillary, people don't like Trump, but
Right.
So they're gonna channel on the VPs.
Yeah, I think a lot of people view this as a one-term presidency. Historically, you've had a pretty decent precedent of vice presidents trying to run for president, so I think you have that at play. I mean, I think a lot of people may think, hey, in 2020, there may be such fragmentation, say Trump happened to win, such fragmentation that there's no way he's going to win in 2020, so there's actually an open primary again. So I think that's at play. I also think the other thing that's very much at play is exactly that people don't really like these candidates. So they want to know, if I remove the personality, if I remove the history, if I remove the offensive things Trump said and the things that Hillary's lied about under oath, and take all of this crap out, what's the platform of this White House going to be? And this is going to be your most, I think, transparent, or not necessarily transparent, I don't know that it's more transparent, but less filtered version. So yeah, I think it's pretty important.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, yeah, it's important, but I think people, like say Romney, Obama, I mean, people kind of knew what they were getting with Obama. What was Biden going to really pass along? With Romney, I think a lot of people liked Romney, or at least got him. They felt like they...
Who is his VP?
Oh, man.
Was it
That's Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
Say
Matty Ice.
Don't use the quarterback.
Yeah, it's Paul Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
So yeah, I think, and I think people were really into that. 'Cause, Paul Ryan was at the time kind of the face of young Republican.
People like
leadership.
him.
And, yeah, the one that got away. Cool. That's all we got for political party. Anything else?
No, that's a good one.
Very good. Ben's coming up.
Hi everybody, I'm back. I'm Ben Nye. I'm going to talk a little bit about Nike now. Nike, they say just do it, but they're not doing it right now. So just quick poll of the peanut gallery here. How many of you would buy Nike as your go-to destination for fast casual or like athleisure athletic wear?
Under
Yeah.
Armour.
Under
I'm
Armour.
about it.
I would do it.
So we've got 2 Nikes and an Under Armour.
I'm Under Armour. 2-2, bro.
Oh,
2-2.
so it's 2-2 after Andrew ties it up. So that's kind of the problem with Nike right now, is that they're a bit saturated, especially in the North American market. Although they have great products and they have a great brand, you get to a certain point and the growth just has to decelerate, because there's only so long you can actually grow faster than the broader economy. Otherwise, you will become the economy eventually. So Nike had a bit of an issue in the last quarter. Their fiscal year ends in the end of May. So their fiscal 2017, their first quarter just ended in August. So they reported earnings last night. A few things. Earnings beat expectations. So a lot of people would say, okay, well, if earnings beat expectations, the stock should be up, right? But that's not all there is to it. There's a lot more to it than that. First of all, you have to actually analyze what is driving the earnings beat. Is it better than expected revenue, better than expected margins? And as you kind of go down the income statement, is it top line? Are they making more on every sale that they make? So that's the first thing. The first thing is that although earnings beat, the earnings quality, in finance you call it earnings quality, was worse than expected. The second issue is that whenever Nike reports earnings, they also report these futures orders, which are a representation of future sales. And we have some charts that Garrett's going to put up here on the video. But essentially, for our listeners only, North America futures orders have decelerated substantially. They were in a range between 10 and 15% for about 2-3 years. And over the last 2 quarters, they've fallen from 15% to 10% to 6%. And in this quarter, they were 1%. So futures orders almost in decline on a year-over-year basis at Nike. This is North American numbers. In China was making up for a lot of this until about 2 quarters ago, but now they've started to hit more difficult comparable periods, because when you're doing year-over-year comparisons, you're comparing it to the same period a year ago. So China was having more difficult comparisons, so their year-over-year numbers has gone from about 35% to about 25%, now they're at 20%. So still very robust growth from China, but it's on a decelerating trend, which is not what the analysts like to see. The third issue with Nike's quarter was the weak orders in wholesale. So when Nike is selling fewer products to wholesale partners, they end up with all this inventory. So what do they have to do with the inventory? Well, they have to liquidate it. Now, let's say you have a bake sale and you're selling 20 muffins. Now, at the beginning of the morning, you're charging $4 a muffin because you're like, well, I have 20 muffins, I still have all this time to sell them. And now all of a sudden it's 10 a.m. and there's lower volume that's coming past your booth. So you drop them down to $3.50. And now you still have 8 muffins left. And then at noon, there's still 6 muffins left, and you drop it down to $2.50. And then by 3 o'clock, you're selling muffins for $1. So you're making a lot less money on each muffin than you were earlier in the day. That's the same thing with Nike, who now has all this excess inventory. They are forced to sell their product. They haven't been able to sell wholesale customers. They're forced to sell that product at a much lower price. So what we're seeing at Nike for the first time in a very long time is that gross margin, the amount Nike makes over its cost of actually manufacturing the product, gross margin is declining on a year-over-year basis. That's very important because if you see those margins decline, you're really worried about the trajectory of the earnings in the future. Final thing that analysts are pointing to as well is competition from Adidas. There's also competition from Under Armour and from some other upstarts. So Nike is in a bit of a sticky situation. Revenue growth is still relatively solid. Futures orders indicate a future decline, and earnings quality is poor. So Nike is actually trading down despite an earnings beat. So stay tuned to it over time. Still is a very strong brand. So it might be something that you might want to take another look at after it falls a little bit. But there are some very good reasons why this stock is down in early market trading today. Next, I will hand it off for the internment.
Hey everyone, welcome to Internment. I'm intern Barrett along with intern Scotty. How you doing this morning, Scotty?
What's up, guys? I'm doing great.
I'm glad to see you have your pants on after
I put them back on.
tucking in your shirt earlier.
I got hate for it, so I put them back on. I'm sorry.
All right, last Friday we did a full office rankings segment, but we're going to do that again this Friday, so we're just going to do a quick gain and loss for people around the office. So I'm going to start with Ben, who was a sell on Friday. He actually showed up to the political podcast yesterday, so we'll definitely at least upgrade him to a hold. And our big loss for the morning is Sam Frost. Sam texted all of us in a group text this morning, told us that he forgot to set his alarm, so we are downgrading him from that bow tie wearing buy to a huge sell.
Way to go, Sam.
He's not committed to the pod apparently. So also didn't prepare for this one, but Krebs, not listening to our podcast yesterday. We're gonna do, it didn't hurt my feelings too bad, so we're just gonna put him on a little sell, downgrading him from a hold from last week.
It hurt my feelings a lot.
We're seeing a little volatility with Krebs that we were hoping to see. Scotty, hit us with the quote of the day.
All right, guys. Quote of the day plays in with Nike. So obviously, one of Nike's most famous sponsorships is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. And this is a quote that I like to think that just about everybody in this room probably had on their wall of their room at some point, or at least on some kind of motivational something, poster, card, whatever. It's, I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Just take a second. Yeah, let that sink in.
Goosebumps.
Krebs, maybe take note for your football calls next week. Just want to point out real quick that Krebs only got 4 right this week. While the intern lock of the week, I think we're 75%
We're looking
calling
good.
games right. So
3-1.
I don't know, that sounds pretty good to me.
Scotty's making a good case for a strong buy for the power rankings on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
He's making all the right picks.
Just want to throw it out there. All right. But anyways, that was the quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
And this has been Internment.
All right, everybody. Last segment of the day is appropriately titled Sam. He just got here. We've been ragging on him. Want to give him a chance to defend himself. So Sam, come on up. Hey, man.
Hey.
Thanks for getting here. This has been the Investing Podcast. Y'all have a great day. We will be back tomorrow. Hit subscribe, download, delete, resubscribe, re-download. Helps the numbers. Follow us on Twitter at Tusk Media LLC. Facebook too, facebook.com/Tusk Media LLC. Y'all have a great day.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are our professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.